and that looks amazing. But I'm most excited about the terrain. Let's go back to the beginning. Eddie, what have we just beheld?
So this is Warcry Red Harvest, which is a new box for Warcry, and we've seen a little bit of this teased on the Warhammer community website before, but now the full box is revealed in all of its glory, and it's a pretty cool looking box. So you've got, on the one hand, a force of your kind of classic barbarian archetype, the Darkoath Savages, and these guys are might makes right. Your kind of classic marauder archetype almost, and up against them you've got this kind of super creepy spider-looking warband. And I think if you just want a sense of how Rongans they are, look at the guy's tiny little arm on the cover. So these guys use Varanite, which is the raw realm stone of the 8 points, to mutate themselves to be more like the thing that they worship, which is the 8-legged spider incarnate of the power of chaos, and they are just super creepy. And then in the setting, still in the 8 points, you have a Varanite mine, which is effectively a chaos mining operation, which is...
I assume the worst mining operation to work in.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. So extracting the raw stuff of chaos from the ground of the sprawl to turn into stuff that could be used in all manner of different sorceries and magic forging. But this stuff is super dangerous, so even the slightest touch of a Varanite can turn you into a Chaos Spawn or grow you an extra arm, which the Spider guys are big into. And we also know from the events of the Broken Realms that Maratha used a portion of this to fuel her ascension to godhood. So it's very powerful stuff. So whenever there is a mine of this stuff, people are after it. It's very important. It's strategically important. But it's also a really cool battlefield because you can kick people off girders and kick them into Varanite. And if Varanite touches you, bad things happen to you, basically.
How good
the terrain is super cool. So it's perfect for a skirmish battle because you've got all these different platforms and levels, and Warcry leans really heavily into almost gymnastics around the battlefield, so you can leap from things and dive behind things and seek cover and do diving charges. Quite a lot of warbands have got abilities that if you jump down from a certain height, you can get bonuses, and you can scale things quicker, and you get a kind of multi-leveled kind of feel to it, which is quite distinct from a game of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which tends to be kind of 2D across the battlefield. Warcry is very definitely a 3D battlefield environment, and this leans really
the way
heavily into
movement
that.
it works, it means that getting up on all those high places and leaping from thing to thing is going to be a very real part of your game, and will lend to a really dynamic feel.
Yeah, and this is really high as well, so you get, obviously you can take damage if you fall off stuff, so you can imagine lots of fights that happen at the top of girders, and people are kind of kicking one person off the edge or kicking them into Varanite mines and stuff like that. You get a sense of the atmosphere. The fake smoke effect isn't provided, unfortunately, but everything else on that picture is, and you can get some incredibly cool looking battlefields.
Just leave the toast in the toaster for 30 seconds.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then set up your arms and get shouted at by my wife. Yeah, but all in all, it looks incredible. Here you can see the models in the situ doing their thing, and you get a real sense for how cool they look when they're in place. We were discussing beforehand that the models in this are just incredible, and for me at least, I have a new favourite warband for Warcry.
I think yours might be the other one for me though, because I really like the kind of creepy spider people. They appeal to probably the same part of me that made me be a Gene Stealer Cults player. But yeah, creepy people with extra arms, for some reason I'm just into it.
Yeah, whereas for me, the Darkoath Savages are just where it's at. These guys are the sort of archetypal sort of barbarian horde that might exist in the mortal realms, obviously sworn in their allegiance to the dark gods, and for me that's really exciting. On this page, my favourite is the top right, but you get 10 models in total, so this isn't all of them, and you can see the sort of weapons and things they've got. The bottom right on this page is my other favourite, just incredible.
I think also right in the middle there you've got the sort of sorcerer equivalent for the warband as well, and she is super creepy, kind of witch archetype.
She has no eyes except for the one she's holding.
She's holding the eye of probably some kind of horrible monster creature that she's acquired, but also lost her own eyes, and she appears to be some kind of shaman or kind of witch doctor or something like that. But there's a really nice kind of aesthetic running through this warband where they're not too chaosy, so that they kind of follow the path of the Everchosen, obviously, and they're kind of seeking greatness in the eyes of the gods, but they maybe don't have that kind of level of understanding of the different pantheon in the same way that's maybe the Slaves of Darkness do, or people, the gods are kind of this abstract thing to them, and they're just warriors after strength. And
yeah, I love it. I think that's a really nice aesthetic. There's a few questions. One, somebody said that the Darkoath Savager I pointed out in the bottom right here is reminiscent of that classic Hero Quest. Hero Quest barbarian, and I think that might be why I'm so drawn to him. Somebody else asked, will there be a war scroll for these for using in Warhammer Age of Sigmar? Almost certainly.
They definitely will. Yeah, they definitely will. So give you another kind of view onto the great sprawl of humanity that is still under the thrall of chaos. Like it's easy to kind of forget when we talk about Age of Sigmar that most of the realms are still kind of under the sway of chaos, and there's all these myriad different factions and peoples that are still, following the Dark Gods in one way or another, and this is another example of it. And then another example of it are the Tarantulos Brood, which are just super creepy weird. So
someone said these bug them, and I thought it was great.
Spiders have 8 legs. The Chaos Star has 8 legs. These guys have put 2 and 2 together and come up with 8, and they have a really, really different kind of aesthetic from anything Chaos we've seen before. You can see that on the kind of higher up in the hierarchy, they start to kind of grow extra arms and things, and their thing is that they're trying to ascend to. They wouldn't call it. They tend to demonhood through the kind of apotheosis of the spider and kind of grow extra arms and legs and become this kind of great incarnation of the 8-legged spider god. But they've got a really interesting kind of aesthetic. You've got that kind of net web look on a lot of them. They've got kind of cowled and hooded, and you can imagine these guys are the kind of fast and sneaky warband to go up against the kind of strong and fierce warband that they go up against.
Yeah, nice sort of opposing playstyles would be good. There's a thing, like all of the different Chaos warbands that we've seen for Warcry, they admire/worship Chaos in a different way. And my understanding is that these worship Chaos as the eightfold Watcher, which is why this sort of like arachnid thing has emerged. And so it starts to make sense when you look at all of their webs and everything. They're definitely going for it. And yeah, just each of these kits, obviously, you get 10 warriors for your warband, and the subsequent 5 are at least as great as the previous ones. I can imagine that lots of people are going to find uses for these heads in kit bashes as well.
Yeah, the miniatures are just lovely in their own right. Like, never mind making a warband for Warcry, just beautiful Citadel miniatures. There's some things about them that are very different from a few of the other warbands we've seen. So there's a lot of javelins on them. So I imagine they've got some kind of ranged attack in Age of Sigmar, which brings an interesting dynamic potentially to your Chaos faction. A lot of their weapons are kind of multi-headed, so even the weapons are kind of starting to sprawl extra arms and things. But a really interesting, different kind of aesthetic. Quite a lot of them have spider bites on as well, which I quite like.
There's a lot of love for the colour scheme in the chat as well, and the sort of purpley hued sort of skin. I don't know if they have found themselves imbibing toxins or poisons or whatever to make themselves more spidery. Who knows?
I think if you hang out around Varanite and you get bitten by chaos spiders a lot, that's what you get, that kind of natural, healthy purple complexion.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And
they come with some spiders.
They come with some extra spiders to do their spidery things. Yeah. I think if you are not a fan of spiders,
we should have warned them, really.
I just realised these are not the guys for you. Thankfully, they're little, and they don't, except for the spider bases. I can't help you there.
The nice thing about those spider bases is that they'll fit neatly under a glass. So if you need to kind of put them under a glass and take them outside, you can do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's how you could remove them from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In game terms, the way that these spiders support the Tarantulos Brood is they're kind of like an annoyance swarm. So the Tarantulos don't have the kind of raw weight and savagery of the Darkoath, but what they do have is like a tide of spiders that can tie up one of their fighters for a turn and kind of get in the way, get under people's feet quite literally, and give you the edge